everyone, welcome to Backstage with Bobby. We are so excited to have Adam Federico here with us today. Adam is the creative director at R+Co. He is also the director at the Advanced Academy and Federico Beauty Institute. He is also the owner at R+F Salons. Today we're going to talk to Adam about inspiring young stylists and some tips for if you are new to the beauty industry and so much more. So let's jump in. Hey everyone, we are so excited to be here today with Adam Federico. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me, Bobby.
Yes, so you are in Sacramento, California currently, correct?
That is correct.
Awesome, and
Yes.
you're at your family's beauty school. So your family has a beauty school that you are actually third generation owner of, correct?
That is correct. My family, we've had this school since 1946. It was founded by my grandfather and his brother. My father and my mother got into it back in the late 60s, early 70s, kind of owning and running the schools. And then now it's, I've got two brothers. So it's my two brothers and myself running the school at this time. So I'm on the creative side. I've got my older brother who does the day-to-day operations and my little brother who is our CFO. So it's a bit of a happy marriage because we don't, we all kind of focus in on what we're strong at as long as we don't gray the lines and, step on each other's toes.
Yeah, that's not always an easy thing to do. I mean, family business can definitely be complicated, but I really love that you all kind of found or let yourselves kind of be what you're good at. And instead of forcing you into, running everything every day, maybe like being miserable and hating it, you kind of get to do your own thing, and same for them as well. So I think that's really smart.
Absolutely. As long as we remember that.
Yes.
But there are times when, like you said, right, working in a family business can be hard because it's at times hard to separate family from work. You know what I mean? So the meetings can be a little bit conflicted at times. But
yeah.
We won't go into
Do you guys have? I was gonna ask if you guys have like a rule that when you leave, or if you're at like your kid's birthday party, is there like an unspoken rule that work is not allowed to come up, or is there like a certain amount of time that work is allowed to come up? How do you guys handle that?
Oh no, I think we're always talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I mean, yeah. It's not a bad thing by any means.
Yeah. Now, what is your first memory of beauty school? Because a lot of the people that are watching this are either interested in beauty school, thinking about going to beauty school, or beauty school currently, or they're in the industry and have already been through beauty school. But you probably were introduced to beauty school at a very young age. So what is your first memory of it?
I think my first memory of obviously going into my family's schools, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, and it would just be, my mom and dad would bring us in all the time, and we would just be running laps through like the salon clinic floor, as well as my dad bringing me in at a very young age and cleaning the hair out of the air filters of the hooded dryers. I always say if you grew up with the last name Federico, you most likely grew up in the beauty school, either sweeping the floors, cleaning hair out of the lint traps or whatnot. My dad and my grandfather were always very much like hands-on like that with the kids, making sure that we all, I guess, grew up with a strong work ethic, and we just grew up within, the walls of the cosmetology schools. So it was a bit different.
Yeah. So where were you at in your life when you decided that you were going to go to beauty school? I mean, were you always kind of against it, or was it always like, I'm going to have to go? What was that like for you? How did your parents kind of navigate that with you all?
It's funny. I started playing with hair without the intention, never the intention to do it really, when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. My grandfather's, his garage area was kind of the warehouse to the school. So that's where he had all the hair color kept, all the supplies to build out the kits for, the upcoming starts. So I would go in at a young age and I would color my cousin's hair, cut my cousin's hair. So I think I always had this kind of like natural kind of, I don't want to say innate ability to do so, but I kind of had this natural knack to play with it. But I never really wanted to get into the business of being a hairdresser or even in the cosmetology school kind of ownership level, just because it's what my mom and my dad did,
right?
And I would witness them coming home from work, and they'd be quite stressed out because they're, on a school when you're funded by the government, you're dealing with, the feds a lot, and there's a lot of this additional stress. And that's kind of like what I saw is the beauty industry. It's like, oh, there's no way that I ever want to get involved within the beauty industry because I kind of had this stress wrapped around it. But not to mention, again, it was like what my mom and my dad did. But I think I fell into going into cosmetology school. I mean, just to be outright, just completely honest, I was never a strong student academically through high school. I mean, I definitely had the ability to do so, but I found myself wanting to skip school and go skateboarding and to play music. So I could say my academics definitely suffered. So upon graduating high school, my parents were like, look, if you're going to stay within our house, you need to either, get a full-time job, go to college, or go to beauty school. So I opted to go to beauty school because it sounded like the easier of the three. So I studied for beauty school, and this is really sad. I went for about a month, and the first month of my course, I had to learn permanent waving and design, which was like wet sets, and I couldn't get my fingers to do the action, so I dropped out. So I'm technically a beauty school dropout. And that looked really bad on my parents because the owner's kid, started school and then dropped out. So I went and got a job slinging coffee for about 8 months. And, there was a day my parents had called me in and said, hey, we need some help back at the school in the evenings, kind of just working the front desk as a receptionist. So I took on that job. And at that time, that's when I really began to converse with the student body more so. And like I say, I always really enjoyed playing with the tools and the product, and I enjoyed playing with the product. And I think that got me a bit more re-inspired to possibly sign back up for school to get a better understanding, I think, of the industry. Because at that time I thought, well, if I can complete school, I can then just get into the business and running it with my parents. So then I went for my second go around with beauty school, and I successfully made it that second time around. So I can say, I think I wound up in beauty school by kind of like a happy accident, really. Lots of those in my life. And a bit of an ultimatum, get a job or go to beauty school. So
yeah, well, like I said, we kind of talked earlier about you being a little more of like a creative mind. So how do you think, I mean, did beauty school pull more of that out of you? Do you think that you just needed to find the way that you could be creative with it? Because we have a lot of people that that even I meet with every day that are artistic or into music or just very creative. Obviously this industry is full of creative people, so do you think that
right.
helped? Like, did you just need to find the way that you were able to use your creativity in it, do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, the second time around when I signed up for school, by the time I got into the cutting courses in color, that's when I really began to, I think, figure out how to utilize my creativity and to see the art in hair, if you will. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I started going to the shows with my mom and my dad, and I began seeing, some of the larger stage shows. And that's when I really, and this is now back in the early 90s, and I think that's when hair shows are really just doing it big. Yeah, a lot of the large manufacturers really kind of claiming stake at the shows, doing really large stage presentations. And I think that's when I began to see a fusion between, my musical side of myself, kind of within the industry, because I saw the large stage shows. So I was like, okay, this is a bit like a rock concert, if you will. There's lights, there's energy, there's this kind of emotion and music, music coming through. So I began seeing that side. I was like, look, if I'm going to stay in this industry, I don't want to do the business. I want to do, the creative. So, and that's when I began to really kind of, I think, set my my mind's eye on more of the creative outlet within the industry and getting into doing more of that side of it.
Yeah, I think that that's a big piece of this. I think a lot of people, they just don't understand how many different things you can do within the industry. And I feel like you're such a perfect example of this, because not only have you done so much through your career, but I think a lot of people that I meet with, or maybe I should say a lot of parents that I meet with, are thinking that their kids are just coming in to, okay, you're just gonna cut hair, and that's whatever their idea of a hairstylist is. That's what they think.
Right.
But you being able to like kind of show all the different things that you can do, I think is really important. I think it's something that we all need to talk about a little bit more, so that we can kind of get
Sure.
that out there, that it's not just standing behind the chair. And so I think that that's really awesome. So what did you do then? Like how, because I know that you're a salon owner as well. So you've been a salon
Yes.
owner for over 20 years, did you say?
Over 20 years, yeah.
So when
Yeah.
did you decide to open up your own salon? When did that happen? Or were you involved with the school? Were you on stage? Like what was happening when you
Sure.
decided to do that?
So post beauty school, as soon as I graduated, I moved down to Southern California, and I began going through an assistant program down there to really advance my career within education. I worked for a really great salon group in Southern California that had a very strong relationship with the Vidal Sassoon Academy down there. So as I worked in the salon and I built myself as a young stylist, I was able to go off and utilize the Sassoon Academy as much as I really wanted to continue like train myself and to build, my technique, my confidence, my skill level. After about 4 years of living in Los Angeles, I just kind of woke up one day and just, realized, Los Angeles isn't really for me. It's not like my speed of life. So I called my folks and said, hey, I'm done with Los Angeles. I'm thinking about moving up to Seattle. And they're like, well, why do you want to move to Seattle? I was like, because music. And
yeah. You're like
Nirvana.
Nirvana, heard of it?
From Seattle. Yeah. Because of music. They're like, but you're doing hair now. So they said, well, why don't you come home? We've got something that we want to talk to you about, kind of a job offer, not a job opportunity. Yeah, job opportunity, a job offer. And my parents really wanted to get into, opening a salon to kind of round out, the portfolio of our business. But with running the school, they couldn't really foreseeably see themselves going off, opening and running a salon. They're like, well, why don't you come home, come into business with the family. You can open a salon, you can, create it to whatever aesthetic you want. You can run it, really run, I guess, the culture or create the interior aspect of the business however you would like. And, just help us build the salon. And, at that point, you can go off and do whatever you want to do. Leave Sacramento, move away, whatever. But, I think they knew exactly what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was 22 years old at this time. So first off, I always say, who offers a 22-year-old an opportunity like that? Because I was still very young and in one way. But by the time the salon opened, I was 23 years of age, and I think at that point, I put literally my blood, my sweat, my tears into building this space out. My uncle actually was the contractor on it, so I was in there every day, helping build it out. So it was literally my blood, sweat, and tears. And I think they knew once they had me tied in at that level that I wasn't going to go anywhere. So that was 22 years ago.
Wow.
So, and I still have the salon. So yeah, I've owned the salon for 22 years. I've stood behind the chair as a full-time stylist. I've taught in our cosmetology school as a teacher, I still do so quite a bit, doing more advanced classes and so forth. So I think I deviated away from your original question. You might have to rail me back in.
No, that's okay. No, that's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what I wanted, is kind of how you got into all of that. So I think that you being having all of these things behind you, because I know you also work with a product company as well. So you're with R+Co right now, and what's your position with them?
I work as director of content for R+Co. So I'm in charge of, and I give them 11 days a month.
Okay.
So half part-time. I'm in charge of putting together all their educational content, training their global team, bringing new people on, holding classes myself and so forth, and more of just, I think, the educational vision of the company.
That's really awesome. Okay, so in now hearing everything that you've done in the industry and kind of where you are at right now, I want to ask you a question, and I think you're kind of the perfect person to ask. But right now, one of the things that's kind of been going on through my mind, or one of the things that I kind of want to put out there, is a resource for young stylists right now. So we are in, obviously, I mean, especially you all out in California, I feel like are in a different world compared to where we are in Tennessee. It feels like we are that separated. It's crazy. So I want to ask you, what advice can you give to young stylists that have just come into the industry and are facing these challenges of, jobs hiring kind of being put on hold? It kind of, I guess there's two ways that you can answer this question, because there's people that are considering coming into the industry. Do you feel as, like I said, with where we are right now in the current climate, do you feel like that you are encouraging people just as much to come into this industry as you were January 1st, 2020, or do you think that it's changed a little bit?
No, I'm definitely encouraging people to come through. I think it's an excellent, opportunity and time, because as much as we're seeing, new blood or a new generation coming in, I've definitely, especially in California, because of what we've had to deal with the closures, I've seen so many people fall out of the industry, the stylists leaving, salons closing down and whatnot. So I call it kind of natural attrition, more so maybe than, past years, because of, the pandemic and so forth. But I think it's leaving a lot of opportunity for new blood and new stylists, to come up. And, that's really kind of like one of my beliefs really within, I think, life is you always have to groom the young and bring them up. So, I think for anybody coming into the industry, whether it's, this time specific, a year ago, 2 years ago, it really takes a lot of grit, to, I think, become successful within this industry. But it's very simple. I think the equation is very simple. It's about showing up, you know what I mean? Putting in those long days, especially as you're building, as a young stylist, to go into the salon for 10 hours and to maybe only see one person. But that's how you build. You just have to show up, and you've got to stay positive, really. So I think just having strong self-accountability and just a very strong mental, positive, presence within your own mindset is, I think the most important things. Yeah, I think the technical side of it, as a young hairdresser, I always thought it was really about being really technically proficient within my craft. But I think it's really about being, just having an overall good attitude and being humble, and just wanting to build relationships, and how to connect with people, and how to have those kinds of conversations. With that, I think anybody can really be successful within it. But, it takes time. It's hard work, but it's like anything in life, isn't it? It's like anything that's really worth having in this life, you've got to put your time and energy into it. And it generally doesn't come easy. You've got to kind of work for it. And that just goes back into a basic work ethics, you know what I mean? So if you've got a good, strong work ethic, or you can train yourself to have one, that's what it really takes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's one thing that I don't know. I think for people that are, thinking about coming into the industry, I think that that is one thing that they don't always know before they come in, is that this isn't the easy way out. This is not going to be a cush career. You have to work hard, and there's a lot that goes into it. And I think that, just being open and honest about that is kind of how I feel. I want to give everyone all of the information, open book. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're not tricking you into thinking this is, you're going to make $1 million the first year that you're behind the chair, and I think that honesty is the way that we're going to get there. So I really love that you were able to share those tips. I want to ask you, I really am a big believer in community, and surrounding yourself with people that are able to not only just not putting people in your life just be able to help you so that you can benefit from it, but also being able to give back. So talk to me kind of about what your community looks like in this industry. So you obviously
you have your family, and so you have
Yes.
them around you. But who else are you, working with, or who's inspiring you right now?
That's a great one. So I've got a project that I do. It's called Federico Advanced, and I've been doing this for about the last 8 years. So we expanded out our educational facility back in 2012, and through the expansion, my brothers and I sat around a table, and they're like, "Well, what do you want to see come from this expansion?" And I had this kind of idea that I wanted to create the next level of learning, being I wanted to open up an advanced academy that was geared towards the postgraduate, even though an undergraduate, being a cosmetology or a barber student, could come in and take these courses. But I wanted to offer, like I say, a place for the outside hairdressing community to come back to continually like further their knowledge, to gain inspiration, and just to be a hub of really just like great education. And like I say, I started this 11 years ago. So at that point, I've been doing hair for about 17 years. And I've gone through so much education myself that I thought, if I do this, I really want to seek out literally the world's best hairdressers and to bring them in and to offer, them the platform to come in and to share, their brand of education, their methodologies, their philosophies, in turn, that it's going to help kind of like groom and inspire this kind of community of hairdressers. And I kind of set out to do that, to really nurture the craft of hairdressers within call it my local community, Northern California. Well, upon doing so, I found multiple things. I found one, it was a great way to continually creatively feed myself, and surrounding myself with this really high caliber of hairdressers, just a place to continually challenge myself. And a lot of them have become like really great friends of mine and people that I can call a friend, but also call a mentor, and reach out to them, like seeking advice, sharing my work over with them, and getting, a secondary kind of perspective, creative perspective on, the work that I've done. But as well as, the second hand is, it's offered, I think, again, a place for people in my community to come back in and to, again, like continually feed themselves full of education. But what I found is that the reach has really gone larger than Northern California, where we have people coming in from all over the world to take the courses with these individuals. So I think that's something that I've been able to offer back within the community of hairdressing, is this kind of like this, we always call it the safe hub, because, I've gone out and taken many courses through other academies, and you always feel a little bit, I would say you always feel a little bit, you're out of your wheelhouse, you're out of your box, because you're going into this alternate space to learn. So, I mean, I really try to pride myself and the academy on that. It's a very safe space, that when people come in, that we try to really connect on a human level, so people can come in, take these courses, and really kind of let their guard down, so they can really absorb as much of the education and the culture as they possibly can.
That's awesome. I really love your idea of kind of giving back in that way also. I think that it is definitely one big circle, and we all need to be supporting each other in this community.
Yeah.
I think that I just really have a hard time with, this industry can definitely be like, who's the best, who's the biggest ego, like that kind of thing. And I really, really love the people that you meet in this industry that are all about like, let's just all be the best together. And I think that that's a really special quality to have. But I do think that there's a lot of people in this industry specifically that think that way. So it's just kind of finding those people and finding, I guess, where you fit best too. So.
Absolutely. I find more and more people are falling into that kind of that realm. I think the older school, like the real elitist kind of ego attitude, I think is finally beginning to wash out. So I've got a few personal things. Like when I invite artists in, first off, they've got to be humble. They've got to be just like really decent human beings. I don't care how great you are at doing hair or how well you can teach it, but if you come across having that kind of air of attitude, like, I'm not going to invite you in. So I already know, like, from the artist side, like, anybody that I work with and I bring in, like, they're going to be just really, really good people. But I believe that, if you're really strong in what you do, you can lead. And I think ego is necessary, because ego is just really confidence. but it's how you utilize that confidence, right? You can come in and you can teach confidently, but you don't need to have that snobbish, attitude, if you will. So
yeah. It's funny. I've talked to some people through doing this like over the last 2 years that are, like there's just a different type of interview. Like it's very like you just kind of know coming in that they really want to talk about them. And they really want to make it, and it's all about that and like everything that they've done, which is great to share that, to help inspire. But I'm really drawn to people, and I really like when I was reading about you, I knew that I was going to love talking to you because I'm just really all about people that like want to get back and are, wanting to do something a little bit different. And I think that highlighting those things again, like I said, is important. So, okay. So last question, what advice do you have for somebody that is thinking about going to beauty school, whether it is in California or New York, wherever you are? What advice do you have for somebody that's thinking about going into the beauty industry?
My advice for somebody going into the beauty industry, I think my advice to them would be similar to like any young stylist. It's just like, don't expect like, to go into the beauty industry and all of a sudden to have a clientele fall in your lap. It's a lot of hard work. Like I say, that word grit is really, I think what it's really about, like in becoming, I think, successful. And success really is not like how much money you make. It's just about how happy you are making your way through this life, I see a lot of my friends who are extremely successful, but they're probably not the most wealthy of people, but they're traveling the world, you know what I mean? And they're able to teach their craft within hair and to share and inspire. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I say, for anybody coming in, it's like, if you want to come into an absolutely amazing industry where really the opportunity and how far you can really progress and go with it is really just dependent on you yourself and your own self accountability. Because you can, like I say, you can work behind the chair, right? Full time. You can become a beauty school teacher down the way. You can work for a product company educating. You can go off and be a sales rep for a product manufacturer. You can travel the world and embrace yourself within so many different cultures and either learn or be the educator in teaching. There's so many amazing things that you can do within this industry, but really what it comes down to is it just comes down to having, a disciplined work ethic, really, and a positive mental attitude.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and don't forget to follow Adam at Adam Federico on Instagram as well as Federico Advanced so that you can see what they're up to. Thank you so much for joining us today on BeautyCast Network with Backstage with Bobby.